Learn how we're making it easier for you to track middle-tier applications with SQL Audit in Azure SQL Database. This week on Data Exposed. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed. Today, I'm joined by Sravani, a product manager on the SQL security team. Sravani, thanks so much for joining us today. You've been on the show before, so it's great to have you back. Today, we're going to be talking about some new things landing in SQL auditing that I actually don't know anything about. So I'd love to just pass it over to you to understand a little bit more about what is this OBO thing? How does it work with SQL Audit? And maybe even take a look.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for having me again. So we recently released an enhancement in auditing to support on behalf of access requests for Azure SQL Database. So probably I can give a quick introduction about what is on behalf of flow, right? So Microsoft Entra supports on behalf of flow, which means a web application can be authenticated using an identity which is not its own identity. And with this on behalf of access, now it's even supported for Azure SQL Database and SQL Managed Instance. Any middle tier applications in Microsoft Entra Identity Platform can connect to SQL Database and SQL Managed Instance using a signed in user apart from the application identity, right? So this is an enhancement that exists for many months now, and it is generally available. However, inside SQL, there is no direct way to track this middle tier application details, which is coming through on behalf of access to SQL database. So this on behalf of flow has certain advantages, like it eliminates connection secrets to the backend services, just like managed identity approach. It also gives backend databases more control over who and how much access you can grant to the data and its functionality. And it also lets the app tailor its data presentation to the signed in user. But like I said, there is no way to track these connections which are coming from on behalf of access inside SQL database. So in auditing, what we have done is now we pull this middle tier application details into the audit logs from the Azure AD token that we receive, and we write that information into the audit logs here. So if you see, we have added a new column in the audit logs which tells you OBO middle tier application ID, which gives you the application ID. And with this, customers now can track their all on behalf of access requests along with the signed in users that is trying to access the database. So this is very important task from many customers for SQL and SQL managed instance, because this is needed to meet their security and compliance, so that they can track all their on behalf of access requests that are coming to Azure SQL database. So currently we support this for Azure SQL database, and soon we will be supporting this for even SQL managed instance. We can quickly go through the demo to show you how this works.
Cool. Awesome. It's great to see this land. I'm sure a lot of customers are happy that they're now going to be able to track this from those middle tier apps. But yeah, let's take a look.
Yeah. So let me quickly take you to my Azure portal. So here is a resource group that I have with certain applications deployed. So here you can see that I have a demo web application which is created, and I also have a SQL database and SQL server, and I created a storage account where I can store the audit logs. So in this scenario, what I'm going to do is the application that I have here will be connecting using the signed in user, which is coming from Microsoft Entra. So this works with the Microsoft Entra authentication, which used to be called as Azure AD authentication. So the signed in user who has this web application access, I can now access this application and connect to the SQL database and authenticate it by the signed in user. So for that, let me quickly show you my SQL database server here. So this is my server, and if you see, I have my managed identities are configured here. There is a managed identity that is added, which can be my primary identity on my SQL server. And then this is my web application, and when user access this web application, so if you go here, which is deployed in Azure. And then I can just try to access this web application page. It takes me, so it authenticates the signed in user in the database and takes me to the web application page or the landing page, right? So uh, while we do this, here I have my SQL server for which I just showed you how the identity is configured. Let's also check that the auditing is enabled. So this is my SQL server. I think I just have that. Okay, I think this is okay. Yeah. So if you see here, this is my SQL DB audit logs container to which I enable the auditing, and here my XCL files are sitting. So now that we have accessed the application from the web app, let's quickly go through the extended event logs. So you can I just opened the XCL files on my management studio, and here you can see that there is a server principal SID and server principal name along with that OBO middle tier application ID, right? So this is my application ID, which is now coming from Microsoft Entra and connecting to SQL database. So now you can relate, so which application has which user as on behalf of user, which application granted permissions as on behalf of user to which account. And you can also try to retrieve this application details by using command, PowerShell command, which I have explained in my blog as well. So you can simply use this get Azure AD application and give the application ID that you get in the audit logs, and you can retrieve the application details. Like you can find out which application from my Microsoft Identity platform is trying to connect to the database using an on behalf of access. So with this, now there is a way for customers to track these requests all on behalf of access requests, and that can help them to meet their security requirements as well as compliance requirements.
Awesome. Cool. Sirvani, this was a great demo that kind of takes us through the different steps. So just so I understand what's happening now, like what we've added in those X event log files, you showed the I think the service principal ID that was accessing it, and that new column, this OBO middle tier app ID, this is what we've added. And because beforehand you just have the service principal, but you wouldn't know which
Yeah.
app was connecting. Am I understanding that right?
That is right. So we do have the client application, which could be the end client, but however, there is no way to track the middle tier application because this OBO access is actually coming from a middle tier application, which SQL doesn't even understand what is that, right? So there is no identity created for the middle tier application inside SQL Server. SQL, all it knows is the signed in user. So to track this, we have added this column, and we retrieve these details from the Azure AD token that we get in the connection. And from that, we are populating this information to the audit logs.
Awesome. Cool. And one final question, like is there anything special that folks need to do to start getting this, or will this just start appearing in their XEL files?
This is enabled worldwide. It is just available in their XCL files, and it just gets populated for all the OBO requests. But like I said, currently it is available only for Azure SQL Database, and soon it will be available for SQL Managed Instance. And currently OBO is applicable only for SQL Database and SQL MI.
Got it. Okay. Makes
Yeah,
a lot of sense. Sirvani, hey,
yeah.
thanks so much for coming on the show. I learned a lot. I'm sure our viewers have learned a lot. To our viewers, if you want to learn more, we'll put some links in the description, including a link to Sirvani's blog, so you can go learn more about it. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think. Like this episode if you like this episode. And we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.